evening, everyone. I'm Claudia Wong. I'm an assistant professor from the Department of Health and Physical Education at TEDxEdUHK. I do research on psychological well-being and mainly on self-compassion. Before I began my academic career, I was a Hong Kong elite swimmer, specializing in marathon and long-distance swimming. And even though I didn't get into a full-time career, so I still train twice a day, 6 days a week, and also attend school after every training section. And after I retired from my athletic career, I start engaging in practicing yoga. I study abroad and get in touch with self-compassion, and even pursued 2 yoga teacher training certificates during my PhD study. Today, the theme was the exits and entries in our lives. And therefore, today I'm going to share how self-compassion actually helps me to enter the new states and new perspective in my life. So before I start, I would like to ask everyone, how would you describe self-compassion? You might say, loving yourself more, caring about yourself, be kind to yourself, etc. and etc. But actually, self-compassion is more than that. Self-compassion refers to extending loving kindness to yourself while you're having struggles, challenges, or even self-doubt, and treating yourself just like sending the same warmth to your dear friend. Self-compassion also contains 3 major positive elements. Firstly is mindfulness, to mindfully aware of your struggles without exaggerating them. Secondly, common humanity, to acknowledge these imperfections as part of your shared human experiences. And then finally, to actively soothe your inner critic and difficulties with self-kindness. And so, apart from, or rather than focusing or ignoring those flaws or judging them, self-compassion actually provides you with a space to better to understand your difficulties while nurturing your resilience. Well, me previously as an athlete, as well as when I'm chatting with some of my friends who are in the psychology field, they seldom use the word self-compassion in their practice, especially when treating athletes. One of the reasons is about how do you perceive the word compassion, or how you translate the word compassion. Sometimes you translate the word compassion into 憐憫 versus 關懷. So sometimes when we translate the word into 憐憫, it seems like self-pity. And even though you show love, warmth, and caring to yourself, it seems like it's being too weak. You're not strong enough, you're not mentally tough enough, and you're not pushing forward, or you're not hardworking enough. There's an exercise in self-compassion that requires us to show loving kindness to someone who you care about, and then transform those loving kindness phrases to yourself. Well, actually, this practice was originally designed to ask participants to show loving kindness to themselves at the very beginning, but it's found very challenging. Imagine that you, as an athlete, you have a friend who just failed to perform very well in a very important international competition. What will you say to him or her? You might say, it's okay, you will do better next time. Or, I felt that way too, I'm here for you. Imagine that you send these phrases or responses to yourself. It seems that you're forgiving yourself too easily, or you are not pushing yourself forward to improve better. And so actually this mindset as an athlete also shaped my ideology or my way of decision making. It seems like I'm enforcing some so-called rules that I need to follow because of this identity. Just for example, I should be doing something, or I should be in a certain way just because I'm an athlete, or in order to be successful. Or another way around, I shouldn't be in a certain way. That seems familiar to you, right? So I shouldn't be lazy, I should not let anyone down, or I should be self-disciplined because I need to wake up at 4:30 a.m. every morning to get into training. And so when I need to adhere to these so-called rules that I set to myself, I tend to be in an unforgiving internal framework or in between struggles that make me feel tired. And swimming is a very solitary sport. that requires me to be alone in the sea for more than 2 hours to complete a marathon. And within these 2 hours, there's a lot of self-talk going on. For example, I need to ask myself to be mentally tough, to strive for success, to gain my personal best. But actually, this also leads to mental fatigue. I get in touch with the concept of self-compassion when I was studying my master's degree in UK. And from there, I realized that self-compassion is not being weak, but actually provide you with an inner space. And this inner space actually allows you to comfort your emotions, comfort your inner self, and validate your experience and build resilience that is not harsh or rigid, but with gentle and flexible. It also reminds me that we do not need to recover or rebound from struggles or difficulties immediately, but actually provide you with more space and time that allows you to make a more positive decisions or actions for future improvement. And you might ask, so how do I get deeper into the embracement of self-compassion? I realize that practicing yoga allows me to get deeper and to engage in the concept of self-compassion. It's because through practicing yoga, I could enhance my body awareness. I am able to accept my strengths and weaknesses easier by telling myself that it's okay to fall apart from balance pose, or it's okay not to practice for 1 whole hour of yoga, but actually 20 to 30 minutes per day will be enough. But still, sometimes I force myself not to fall apart, but also to struggle whether I should roll out my yoga mat after a long day of work. So anyways, I feel the change within my body after practicing yoga. I feel the change of flexibility and also smoothness within my body. And this change is not only within my inner self, but not within my body, but also within my inner self. And so I always believe that actually body sensation is like a channel that transforms our inner self message into our explicit self. Well, as you guys know, there's different types of yoga, right? And there's like Hatha yoga, Vinyasa, Ashtanga, Yin yoga, etc. and etc. And I get my teacher training in Hatha and Yin yoga. Well, actually Hatha also refers to Yin and Yang. It also aligns with the Yin and Yang approach in self-compassion. Well, Yang refers to like being within yourself and by comforting, soothing, and validating yourself. It's just like when you're in a happy baby pose or child pose, that you just be there, being with yourself and comforting your inner child. Well, for Yang, referring to like protecting, providing, and being motivated, it's just like some Yang poses, just for example, Warrior 2, Warrior 3, some very common yoga poses, but also crawl pose. Requires you to stand up with strength, confidence, and being motivated. And I would like to say, actually crawl pose is the hardest pose that I'm able to do as a yoga teacher, but I never force myself to do a headstand just because I'm a yoga teacher. Well, for Yin yoga, that requires yogis to stay in a particular pose for more than 3 minutes, and with guided meditation, it enhances my mindfulness practices and also body awareness, then further enhance my self-acceptance and self-awareness. I come across a quote from a book written by Upton Chen in his 仲日子的人, and here's the translation of the quote. He mentioned, "We practice yoga to cultivate a heart that becomes fast and tender, and embracing both our travelers on the path that these who happen not to walk alongside us." And so actually this quote also shows how yoga to me facilitate me to exit from a certain level of or certain extent of rigid and perfectionism and enter into a new path that is more fast, tender, and flexible. And so actually practicing yoga allows me to observe and better understand my emotions and thoughts with gentle neutrality, unlike my previously mindset as a mentally tough athlete that I need to fixate on immediate success, to race for solving a problem, or to pushing myself forward. But actually self-compassion provides me with more space to empower a wiser and positive decision making. While with this exits and entries, actually provide me with an inner space to acknowledge my struggles and then to make some decisions. Even though these decisions have to be made or is quite hard to be made sometimes. But at least these decisions have been processed by my emotions and we accepted it. So I have provided a high dosage of knowledge about self-compassion and how yoga affects how I perceive self-compassion. And you might ask, so how do I apply self-compassion in my daily life? Well, actually, firstly, I have conducted a seminar on resilience and self-compassion with a group of firefighters. And as you guys know, firefighters are required to work under very stressful work situations, and they need to make quick and correct decisions in order to save lives. And so by the end of the seminar, they asked me, so how could I apply self-compassion in my daily working condition? My answer is to practice and build your own compassion toolkit. So in this compassion toolkit, I asked them to create a loving kindness phrases journal by just using your phone app. So there's a lot of journaling app and note app in your phone, so very easy to access to. And you just open the app and jot down any loving kindness phrases that you tend to respond to those struggling situations, those common struggling situations that you experience. So whenever you face these situations, you are able to pause and ground and then retrieve those phrases from your phone. The reason is, whenever we are under these stressful situations, we tend to be within these negative emotions, ruminated emotions, that it's very hard for us to stay neutral or non-judgmental. And therefore, we are required to use this external assistance to help us to find our compassionate part within our inner self before we connect to the purpose and reconnecting to the struggles in order for us to make a more constructive and focusing decisions for the journey ahead. And you might ask me another question. So what exactly are those loving kindness phrases? So imagine that your self-talk is a soundtrack of life. I do believe that you do not want it to be full of inner critics, right? So keep judging or criticizing yourself. And so I also would like to provide you with some simple but transformative but daily tools that help you to apply self-compassion into your daily life. For example, turning obligations into gratitude by trying swapping I have to I get to. Instead of I have to cook a dinner tonight again, try I get to nourish my body with food I enjoy. Instead of I have to deal with this very stressful project today, try I get to use my skills in ways that challenge me to grow. Or moreover, trading I want to be to may I be by not focusing on what I lack of, but invite them with gentle intentions. For example, instead of I want to be less anxious, try may I be patient with my personal journey. Instead of I want to be patient at this, may I be courageous in my imperfections. So that's mainly into the perfect at this, trading or trying, may I be courageous in my imperfections. Although I know that mindfulness and self-compassion might not help you to solve the problem directly, but actually help you to, or at least help you to release the ever-happening emotions when you're struggling, or negative emotions that you're struggling, and to help you to make a more non-biased and positive decisions. So I would like to say is, embracing self-compassion are small shifts, but small shifts creates powerful ripples. So actually self-compassion has been scientifically documented and evidence its effect on mental well-being and personal growth. And so I hope the sharing of today and some of those simple phrases that I've read out just now could inspire you and remind you to be more self-compassionate in the near future. Thank you.